Grand rising, y'all. Y'all know this is the weather that I live for. So I did, a nice amount of videos. I did a video that's going to be coming out soon where I kind of was breaking down the incident with Trailer Trash Bob and how it would have been nice if I would have had some mentoring around that time coming up on my first corporate IT contract. Now, this particular situation that I talked about, there was kind of a lot of things going on. I kept myself busy. Bear with me because my allergies is pretty much on 10. I should have took my Benadryl early. So I'll try to just bear with me. So, hold on one second. That's one thing. The allergies and IT do not mix, man. It's just not a good, you be coughing, you be, a lot of people have that in the office and stuff, but, I wanted to talk about transitional periods and what you do in times of transition. I'm still going to do that video. I'm trying to figure out how I could do it on my phone because I'm not in the same space anymore. I'm going to be doing primarily a lot of stuff on my phone. I'm trying to get this video thing down. So, I did another video that I'm releasing on Maplewood, Minnesota. As I said, I'm going to probably start going around the city a little bit, places where black folk live, and kind of talk about what is it like, places you could go and the demographics of the Twin Cities. And then really kind of like a workplace point. Like if you're here, if you move here, what should you expect? What should you know? In terms of, where to go, banking and businesses and stuff like that. So the transitional period, I want to talk about around, I'll say 2013, when I started getting into a lot of those Windows 7 migration contracts and things of that nature. That was kind of a big thing for me because I got to touch a lot of different technology. And if I was somewhere where I felt severely undermined, and you could kind of tell, now, like I say, because jobs are not the way they are, people a lot of times more so are holding on to what they got because what's going on with the industry. It's been 3 months almost, and I've been searching for these 4 or 5 brothers positions, and they really been having a hard time finding things. Now, some people would say it's because Trump's in office. I don't particularly believe that, because we've had employment issues before. But now, what I have seen, that I've talked to recruiters even last year, is that there has been a change. Does AI have something to do with it? Probably so. To a certain degree, yes. As I talked about in that agility report many years ago. Now, they said in this report that over 30% black men, specifically, they didn't say black women. They said black men will be affected by AI. I'm going to find that report and I'm going to post it so you can see it. They said black men. So now a video came out talking about 300,000 black women. They start talking about that. But I'm going to have to analyze that video and break it down, because what they were telling those sisters was the stupidest thing in the world. What they should do. They literally were telling them just complain, don't do anything. So you got to hear it to believe it. But so what I would do if I got laid off from a position or whatever the case may be, I will go get what a couple IT guys, we kind of coined, it's some brothers that, that we worked with, and I worked with on site at some different migrations earlier in my career. And we were talking about, if you ever remember that scene in Boardwalk Empire, where the brothers are sitting down there in the kitchen and they sitting there like, okay, you got folks that's not eating the food, that the good food, and they throwing it away and they giving us slop, and we cooking the best food down here when we could very easily share, we eating the slop. So they kind of start to unionize in a way. And the brother from Baltimore that was like right hand to, I wasn't going to say Nucky Thompson, Michael K. Was it Michael K. Williams that played in what was his name? But man, I can't remember his name. I can't remember his name right off the top. But the brother that was running the black folk out there in Boardwalk Empire, and he ruled with iron fist. His second hand started to unionize in the kitchen. They said, well, wait a minute. You need the black labor class in order for this casino, in order for all of this to run. You need the black labor class. If you don't have the black labor class, then there's not really much you can do, because the white folks are not going to work in these positions. So they realized the power that they had. So they voted couch. There's power in withholding something, withholding a vote, withholding power, withholding your money, withholding your voice on an issue that somebody is shaming you to talk about, or whatever the case may be. There's power in that. Saying the word no, there's a lot more power in no than yes. If you say yes to everything, you ain't gonna have no power. But for you to tell somebody, you know what? Hell no. There's power in that. So they started to unionize. So we came up with this term in my earlier years about contracts, or like if you're on a perm job, or, whatever job you're at, we came up with this term, hey man, I'm just about to go get me a slave contract. Now, what we meant by a slave contract is that we don't have the power that the powers can be, but if you're not happy with the conditions under the powers that can be, you're going to go get you could go somewhere else. That doesn't necessarily mean that the grass is greener. It could be browner. Hell, it might be purple. But the freedom to say, well, I'm just going to go over here and get what they call a slave contract. We call it a slave contract because you're like on another plantation, but the difference is you're subjected to only a certain amount of whatever's going on. So you go to this contract. Sometimes I used to, if I'm somewhere and it ain't working out, I may not go directly look for perm at that time. I'd go get a contract, and we call it a slave contract, because it's like, okay, I'm going to go to this place and I'm going to do only X amount of things. You don't get A, B, C, D, and F out of me. I'm hired to do this, and that's what I expect, and that's what you expect, and that's what I get paid for. So I don't go into that job with the same loyalty and the same expectations of being somewhere on the perm position, or whatever the case may be. The permanent means permanent. Permanent slave. I own you. The attitude that they have once you get into a lot of permanent positions is I own you, especially if it's salary. I own you, and you got to do all this extra stuff. You got to work these extra hours, whatever the case may be. The contract stipulated that I get paid for every hour I work. Now, you may not get PTO through agency. Sometimes you do. You can earn it over a certain amount of time, how many hours that you work. In America, they pay you to work. That's what your tax dollar is supposed to represent. You get paid to work, and you pay your government to represent you. That's how it's supposed to be. Whether or not that condition is alive, that's another conversation. But that's how it's supposed to work. And so we would say, man, I'm about to go get me a slave contract. And we would laugh. I remember the first time when one of us said it, like, they're like laughing, like, and it was like, hey, for real, I'm about to go get me a slave contract. You did? I'm about to go get me a contract elsewhere, because this right here ain't working out. We're working out. Or if you're already on a so-called slave contract, it might be another contract. And I used to do it. When things was falling down at Blue Cross, I went over to Travelers. Travelers was better. The grass was much greener. I got paid more. SCCM was on point. Wasn't a whole bunch of problem with imaging. Now, you still had those, oh man, let me pick your brain dudes. They're not really trying to find out no information. They're just trying to keep you in line. They kind of want to see where your head is at. Oh, let me pick your brain. Do you really care about doing a good job, or what do you really care about? I'm a contractor. Why the hell are you even asking me that? So me and this other guy, we had a discussion. I said, yeah, we got to watch this dude. There was only one guy. It was one guy, Travelers, that pulled that, hey man, let me pick your brain. Like, he was really trying to give us and we were really trying to figure out what is the purpose of this question. Because the thing is you're asking us questions for a perm employee. We were hired to do this job. We were interviewed, we were vetted, and we were hired to do this job. Because you're not asking everybody else that question. You're not asking everybody else, because I would have heard it. Other guys would have told me, hey man, this guy walked up to me talking about picking his brain or whatever. We Windows migrate. We're not local IT. We're Windows 7 migration specialists. We migrate the computers. We do the same thing A and B every time. So, but really, I want to talk about, transition period. When you're in between work, what do you do? When you're in between, or like some of these guys, they still looking or whatever the case may be. A lot of people don't want to take what I call the so-called slave contract. Some people, I knew one guy, and I'm gonna be honest, I've gotten this a lot over years, right? I've gotten this issue a lot when brothers email me. Now, keep in mind, they couldn't find anything on their own 9 times out of 10, or they didn't know, or whatever the case may be. They had trouble. So they're reaching out to me. They're reaching out to me because I know I put that work in, and I get people what they ask for most of the time. It's not a rocket scientist thing. It's just that what I do well. I've been doing it a long time. If you would have got the emails and you would have built up the contacts, you would be doing the same thing. And you probably would have wrote a book about this stuff, or did what you did and did training or whatever. So that could have been you. I could have easily been you. And it could very easily be so. But you reached out to me because you couldn't find anything. But what I found in a lot of my years, what people will do, they'll reach out, can't find nothing, and then turn around and start telling me about what they ain't gonna do. Well, I need X to this experience or whatever. And then usually I'm gonna tell you what those guys do, y'all. They'll email me back 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, maybe a month at the most. because they got real arrogant and high and mighty built on their resume. Your resume and your resume ain't worth shit if it ain't valued. Your current valuation is based on your resume. Is somebody interested in giving you offers? Are you getting offers? Are you getting the interviews and getting the offers? If you're not getting either, then your resume is just a piece of paper. No one cares. Therefore, you are reaching out to someone that can help get you somewhere of value. Because obviously either you're not doing the right interviews, or the market's janky. It might be some white supremacists like, hey man, I see this black name. Nah, pass him along. That happens. That's documented. Several different studies confirm that about names and stuff. They see a black name, they're like, yeah, that happens. Don't ever think that it don't. Okay. But the bottom line is, you're only valuable as what somebody deems you to be than what they want you to pay you for. Unless you're self-valuing, you definitely don't need me. But what I get a lot of times is guys start talking about, well, I'm not going to do this and that, or whatever the case may be. And then a month later, they're asking about, man, times is rough, man. I need a job. Well, just do this bullshit real quick until you find something else. Get you a slave contract. But see, and I had to see this for myself, but I kind of knew the direction that this was going. This is why I told black folks to jump on this shit years ago. And my gospel fell on many deaf ears. I told people well over 5 to 7 years ago about where this was going and the things that they ought to start doing. And they weren't, a lot of folks wasn't really interested. Niggas want to have freak offs and do, I don't know what they want to do. Niggas want to kick it. Folks acted like this shit wasn't going to happen. So my whole thing is, it's not the same world where you could be as arrogant as you used to be able to be. Before, you could be real, what they call uppity. You could be a real uppity Negro. Hey man, fuck that. I'll go get something else tomorrow. It's not like that anymore. It's different. It's just not. Yeah. It's not like that anymore. Excuse me, y'all. Damn allergies. It's not like that anymore. It's a different ball game. And so when you pass certain things up and like, well, yeah, this isn't what I want to do because this isn't my skill set. You're a little above that. Just go ahead and do the shit out the way and then you keep applying or whatever. But I see how some people may not want to get locked in. If you get locked in a help desk, you can't even go interview. So don't do a help desk. Do maybe like a desktop where you can sneak off and take the interview somewhere, or whatever. Do something like that but I've run into that over a number of years and people come back to me talking about what they can't find. Yeah, you in the back of the line now because these other brothers that was like, hey, let me get that. So that's one less position for you. It is. So, it is what it is, man. I mean, but I say Tri-Field Nation. Tri-Field Nation. That you could do that in between a transition period. Some people don't like doing this one-off, but man, once you build up your clientele on Field Nation, man, you could do your thing. So we'll talk about this more, but I gotta go.